Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, it is episode 97, where we are talking Hamnet, another film that potentially in a few months at the Oscars we will be speaking about a lot. I will get into that today. Before we jump into Hamnet, though, I hope you are all doing well. It is a snowy Saturday morning here in Toronto. It's about -4 degrees. If you want a live weather update like a lot of great shows do, the live with John Mulaney in LA or Office Hours Live with Tim Heidecker. I am getting into a very festive mood despite my work is kind of like crazy busy right now, but I'm very close to the holidays, so I'm still in like a great mood, feeling good. I'm excited about things. There's so many good movies coming out, including the one we're going to talk about this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into Hamnet, of course, timestamps below. If you don't know kind of what this movie is about, other than it's about William Shakespeare and his wife, Agnes, I would be careful going into this about spoilers. I would just listen to the non-spoiler section. I'm not going to say what this movie is really about. Yes, it's a movie about grief, but I'm not going to say who they are grieving because that is very sad, and I noticed some people in my theater did not know. So, just keep it all in mind as we go through this episode. Timestamps are below for the news section, non-spoiler, spoilers, what else I watched. We have a ton of fun stuff to talk about. We are going to talk about Train Dreams, but it'll be in the What Else I Watched segment, so look forward to that. Also, new YouTube video out watching my childhood favorite movies and basically asking, do my childhood favorites hold up? So I watched Agent Cody Banks, Scooby-Doo 1 and 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Clock Stoppers. Hell of a good time. Go check that out on the YouTube channel. But for now, let's get into the news. All right, well, there is so much news to talk about this week, and it's probably the biggest news week we have ever had on the show because Hollywood is melting down, the film world is kind of collapsing under my feet, and it's crazy. There's great updates about movies that I love and I'm excited for, and then there's horrible updates about the industry as a whole. So I've literally had to cut out massive news like Dune Part 3 moving forward a few months. There's a God of War TV show in the works, and I was going to continue our theme of video game adaptations from last week, but let's just jump into the news because there is a ton to get to. Starting with Eric Messerschmidt, who was the cinematographer on The Killer, Mindhunter, and the film that won an Oscar Mank. He is the cinematographer on those films, and he is confirmed to be the cinematographer for The Batman Part 2. Matt Reeves officially confirming it. I think this is really great because I'm pretty sure he has actually worked with Greg Fraser. He was Greg Fraser's DP, so it's going to be a lot of the same styles. And I've seen tons of posts where it's like, oh, The Killer and the Batman over top of each other, and there's many similar shots, perfect thematically of what we're trying to aim for in the Batman Part 2. I thought The Killer, despite not being my favorite movie ever and being sort of a weaker entrance in the David Fincher filmography, I thought it was still a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed sort of the mystery and the secret sort of obsession of it all, and I think it has potential for Eric Messerschmidt to be a really good cinematographer for the Batman Part 2 and do some really inventive stuff in the winter of Gotham. But continuing on the Batman Part 2, Scarlett Johansson is officially in final talks to star in the Batman Part 2. I did not see this coming at all. She would never be someone I would theorize that would be joining another superhero franchise. I mean, she is joining The Exorcist with Mike Flanagan. She's also in the Jurassic World films now. So clearly she loves her franchise IP stuff that funds her own individual projects, maybe. But I am very much shocked and blown away. It completely blinded me. There's been zero rumors. Now, Emma Stone reportedly passed on starring in the Batman Part 2 before Scarlett Johansson was in talks. Producers did not want to meet Emma Stone's fee, so Scarlett Johansson caught wind of that, chased it down. She really wanted the role, and she even took like a pay cut, and she's doing all back ends and bonuses and stuff like that instead of a higher fee. So she really wanted to be in it. Emma Stone, a lot like Jonah Hill with The Batman, because Jonah Hill was supposed to be playing the Riddler. He did not join the film because they did not meet his fee, and oh my God, what a bullet dodged. Thank God. We're going to talk about Paul Dano in a little bit because a lot happened with him this week, but still, Scarlett Johansson reportedly instructed her team to pursue the role in the Batman Part 2 aggressively and do whatever it takes to figure out her schedule once she heard Emma Stone passed on the role, because she is filming The Exorcist with Mike Flanagan up until I think it's like March or April, and then the Batman is starting to film in May. Scarlett Johansson, she's been in some duds. She's a very strange person with all the Woody Allen defending stuff, but she is a fantastic actress. Like, she is one of those actresses that that always sort of goes full tilt, and she was wonderful. I can't believe in Marvel movies she was good, and that's hard to do. So I am excited for this, and there's a lot of theories about who she's even playing, because the rumors are she's going to be a love interest or a past love interest of Bruce Wayne coming back as a villain or revealed to be a villain. Everyone immediately, of course, jumping to Phantasm, or Andrea Beaumont, I believe is her name, from Mask of the Phantasm, the animated film. I would love to see that, but at the same time, like, we saw it in the animated form, so it's hard to reinvent that without everybody knowing the twist of the story. Other people are saying Poison Ivy. I highly doubt it, because she's been straight up done in a live action film. Some people saying Vicky Vale. I don't really know how Vicky Vale would be much of a villain, although I don't know, there is ways that like she could be working with the Court of Owls. But that brings me to the final character of who she could be. The Court of Owls, she could just be the leader of the Court of Owls, who is a new love interest for Bruce, or knows Bruce from the past, and is revealed to be running the Court of Owls in Gotham now that they've resurfaced. A lot of really good potential there. I like this casting news. I think she's a very fun actress. It is interesting in my mind how I weirdly think of her as older than Robert Pattinson, or like significantly older, because I feel like Robert Pattinson has just been playing so many young people and much younger actors, and he's not really been in like the forefront of these huge tentpole movies that much recently, or these insanely dramatic roles for most of the public, so everybody thinks of him as much younger, whereas Scarlett Johansson, it feels like we've known ScarJo forever, and she's been in everything forever, so we're used to her being around and playing these, you know, young love interest roles. But now I see her as like sort of moving into like the 40s actor aged range. But I really love it. I think this is a great pairing. She could be a powerhouse villain with Robert Pattinson. I mean, she's athletic. She can do all of the action stuff, whether that is her role or she is more of a mastermind behind the scenes. It's fun that we're starting to get the casting news. We're starting to get the little bits and pieces of details about the Batman Part 2. I'm very excited for where things are going to go from here, with a wintry, snowy Gotham after the Penguin, and cast members are no doubt going to be announced over and over again over the next few months, because it seems like every time a rumor kind of breaks, slowly Matt Reeves will confirm it in like the next few weeks. So if Scarlett Johansson is in final talks, who knows? Or he'll wait for the whole cast to be announced and then start confirming like he did last time with all of those awesome gifs on Twitter. But let's talk about Quentin Tarantino. He was giving his like 20 best films of the 21st century, and he said There Will Be Blood would have had a chance to be his greatest film if Paul Dano wasn't in it. Quote, "It's supposed to be a two-hander, but Dano is weak sauce, man. He's just such a weak, uninteresting guy. He's the weakest fucking actor in SAG." Well, I beg to differ, and apparently so did the entire internet, as well as all of the DGA, SAG-AFTRA, all of these people, because Quentin Tarantino was getting dragged on the internet this week. Holy shit. Like, almost every actor and director I follow, everybody in Hollywood was posting, oh, and by the way, Paul Dano's an amazing guy. Fucking Alec Baldwin even posted a video on his Instagram saying, hey, just wanted to put it out there that, you know, Paul Dano's a great guy and a wonderful actor. Matt Reeves, who we just spoke about, actually, he tweeted, also, Paul Dano's an amazing guy, as well as Mattson Tomlin, the co-writer for the Batman Part 2, says he's pleased to see so many people cheer for Paul Dano after Quentin Tarantino said Dano was the weakest male actor in SAG. Quote, "Not only is he a terrific actor, but he's an astonishing director who exudes control and tremendous empathy." So he's kind of cooking him a little bit. He's cooking Quentin Tarantino, and I kind of love it, because I am seeing Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, and tomorrow, actually, 4.5 hours with an intermission. Very excited to watch a movie I've never seen. But Quentin Tarantino, I actually despise this fucking man, and he just has the weakest movie takes ever. It just seems like every week he's saying some dumb shit in the press, like, oh, my Fortnite movie's better than anything I've ever seen. 2019 was the last great year for movies. It's like, yeah, because it's the last year you put out a movie, idiot. I don't know. I think he's just like reaching a level of delusion in his old age. I mean, he said West Side Story, Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, is the greatest film of the 21st century. I don't know about that, Chief. I don't know, man. It's really not. But also just like coming after Paul Dano, one of our best actors, who just gave like a revolutionary performance in The Fabelmans as like one of the best dad figures of the 21st century. I'm so sick of Quentin Tarantino and him just saying dumb shit. Like, he also said that Marty Scorsese hasn't made a great film in the 21st century, when he literally made Killers of the Flower Moon a couple of years ago, and that movie is mesmerizing. So Quentin Tarantino, I think he's kind of lost it. He's out of touch. He's one of those directors that is now getting frustrated and insecure that he can't crack his final and 10th film that he's so protective protective of, and now he's just lashing out at everyone and trying to stay relevant in the headlines. It's just he's always been a bit of a dickhead, and I think people are a little bit sick of him, to be honest. But let's move into some Bond updates, and then we are, of course, going to get to the big story of the week, I promise. A while ago, when they announced that, of course, they are going for a new Bond and who were the front runners, I said that Callum Turner would be my number one pick, and Denis Villeneuve is now said to have Callum Turner at the top of his list to take on the role of Bond, as well as I believe the producers of the film are very much in line with him and think he would be a great choice. I am so on board with this. And you know what's crazy? I was thinking about the other day, the Broccoli family, they sold the Bond rights for like 20 million, or creative control of the Bond rights for 20 million. That's nothing for, you know, one of the biggest like tentpole franchises. Everybody knows Bond. Everybody has some kind of connection to Bond, at least, you know, in some way or another. It's like, oh yeah, well, Bond is blah, blah, blah. Who was the Bond of your time? It's one of those franchises that has been passed on through the time. So Callum Turner, I think he'd be a fantastic choice. When I saw this news, I was beyond happy. I think he'd be literally the best option out there right now. He's young, he's suave, he's charming. I also think he has like a real physicality to him that can take on the mantle and do the physical spy stuff. So I'm very excited for this. If Denis Villeneuve wants him, I think that's also a great choice. But okay, should we just get into the big story of the week? Should we talk about Netflix officially putting out there that they are buying Warner Brothers? We'll see if it actually happens. I feel like it will, but Netflix is officially buying Warner Brothers and HBO Max in an $82.7 billion deal. According to Netflix, our mission has always been to entertain the world by combining Warner Brothers' incredible library of shows and movies, from timeless classics like Casablanca and Citizen Kane to modern favorites like Harry Potter and Friends, with our culture-defining titles like Stranger Things, K-pop Demon Hunters, and Squid Game. Holy fuck, this guy's an idiot. We'll be able to do that even better. Together, we can give audiences more of what they love and help define the next century of storytelling. Today's announcement combines two of the greatest storytelling companies in the world to bring to even more people the entertainment they love to watch, said Warner Brothers Discovery David Zaslav. The first quote was from Ted Sarandos, who is one of the worst people in Hollywood right now, the CEO of Netflix, and there is so many problems about this. Not only is this like bad for the film industry, but it's legitimately illegal in the United States because of antitrust laws. So Netflix is like the number one streamer, and then HBO Max or Warner Brothers, all their stuff, is the third streamer in the country. Them combining and overtaking Amazon Prime, which is the second streamer, and honestly not even just a streamer, it's like Amazon in general. That's huge monopoly laws being violated. Is the FCC or whatever in the United States going to intervene? Because, I don't know, the Trump administration, I can't believe I'm looking to them for hope. Like, please do something. Fucking doubt it, because they're absolutely useless and just do the dumbest shit possible. There's a billion issues. This news broke yesterday at like 6 a.m. Eastern time on Friday, and I was just bummed. I did not stop thinking about it all day. Like, genuinely, it was on my mind all day, being like, wow, that's the theatrical model kind of killed. Because if you don't know, Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, thinks the theater model, the 45-day theatrical window, is outdated. He hates the ideas of movies being in theaters more than 2 weeks. And let's be real, he's the kind of the orchestrator of all of the issues that movie theaters are having right now, along with Disney, who always strong arms smaller films to get exclusivity windows and stuff like that. But Ted Sarandos, he thinks that movies should be like 2 weeks in theaters, if not go on Netflix the same day, because he thinks, quote, that's what consumers want. He doesn't even call them like moviegoers or, you know, watchers, viewers, whatever. He calls them consumers, acting like it's fucking data or food, or they're buying a product. And it just really, really bothers me. So Ted Sarandos, he has all of these issues. He is not a creative man. He's a business guy running a business empire. Netflix, the number one streamer. And there's also just so many like top-down issues of all these IPs are just going to be mined as TV shows. Like, he's already talked about, oh, well, the Penguin, DC should be doing more shows like the Penguin. So we're going to have, you know, bullshit superhero TV shows every single 2 weeks, a lot like Disney Plus, and people are going to stop caring. We already have that issue enough to an extent with like DC Studios of there's a lot of stuff and we need to be careful of how much stuff, because it saturates the market. People are already tired of, you know, superhero genre, superhero fatigue, whatever you want to call it. Is that a thing? I don't think so, but I think there's a lot of bad stuff out there. There are many issues in this. It's a monopoly law. Ted Sarandos is an evil fucking asshole. All of the IPs that Netflix will control, whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's Harry Potter, whether it's DC Studios, there's so many things under Warner Brothers that are under threat now, and they're all just going to fall under the Netflix umbrella. They have said, oh no, we're going to keep the theatrical model and we're going to keep everything separate, but every everything under Netflix's control is very bad. That is what monopoly laws are about, that Netflix is essentially going to own like half of the market. And then let's just give some attention to Warner Brothers. David Zaslav came into Warner Brothers, and his entire mission was essentially to chop up Warner Brothers, make it as profitable as possible for selling it. He has said, oh, well, I wanted to separate it because I want to do the communications and the television or entertainment stuff separately in the future. Not true at all. It has always just been to sell the whole thing, chop it up, butcher it. This is one of the worst things to happen in the film industry in a very long time. If this goes through, which who knows if it does, because there are some rumblings that Paramount is going to launch a hostile takeover. They think $30 a share is more than fair in a cash only offer, or a cash mostly offer, something like that. Keep in mind, I'm not a business guy, so if I am getting some facts or like, oh, it doesn't actually work like that, let me know, because I'm not sure. But I know Paramount is allegedly going into a hostile takeover bid because they are pissed. They were cooperating with Warner Brothers for a long time. Warner Brothers was always favoring Netflix's offer, probably because David Zaslav is, buddy with Ted Sarandos. And I mean, if Paramount also wins it, we're fucked as well, because David Ellison, the owner of Paramount, or the CEO of Paramount, is a huge MAGA guy. He wants to make right-wing films under the umbrella of DC and all this stuff, and Warner Brothers. Oh my God, it's a clusterfuck. They cannot let this happen. Universal and Apple, step up, please. We need you guys to help, because you are our only hopes. Otherwise, if it goes to Netflix, goodbye theaters. Genuinely, movie theaters are going to be over. It's going to be like a concert experience where you have to pay $75 to see a goddamn movie because it becomes so expensive. Any movies that are coming out probably get 2 weeks in theaters. It's going to be the highest turnover rate possible. It's just like, yeah, let's take away any place that people can gather in the public. Shopping is already done online. Movie theaters becoming more and more at home. What is the third party thing where people can go and hang out and just be in a universal experience? It really does suck. It's depressing how secluded we are and how withdrawn we're becoming. Everybody has to just hang out at home all the time, and it's a bummer. Movie theaters are like one of the last sort of hangout spots where people can all go experience something, discuss it after over a coffee or food or whatever it is, or just go on a walk and talk about what they just watched together and share ideas in an artistic experience. But anyways, very bad news. We have some great news this week that makes me very excited, and then literally the most devastating news I have spoken about on this podcast ever. And speaking of devastated, let's talk about Hamnet, because this is a very devastating movie. Again, timestamps below if you don't want to know the big twist. Just stick to the non-spoiler section, or what sort of the big idea is behind this movie and what the big action is. I know it's out there as public knowledge, but some people don't know. But let's just do it. Let's dive into what could be an Oscar-worthy film, Hamnet. Hamnet is a 2-hour, 5-minute drama directed and written by Chloe Zhao, as well as Maggie O'Farrell, who wrote the fictional book Hamnet. Reviews are currently very positive, with 8.1 on IMDb, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 93% audience score. Then on Letterboxd, it is absolutely huge. It has a 4.2 average with a 5-star mode, so the people of Letterboxd are loving Hamnet. But the synopsis for Hamnet, I'm going to read the Letterboxd one because it doesn't give the spoiler away, and I want people to go into this not knowing what the point of it is, The powerful story of love and loss that inspired the creation of Shakespeare's timeless masterpiece, Hamlet. The film stars Jessie Buckley as Agnes Hathaway, Paul Mescal as Will or William Shakespeare, Emily Watson as Mary, Jacoby Jupe as Hamnet, or Jacoby, I think it's Jacoby Jupe as Hamnet, Noah Jupe as Hamlet, Joe Alwyn as Bartholomew, David Wilmot as John, Bodhi Ray Brethnak as Susanna, Olivia Leans as Judith, and Faith Delaney as young Agnes. But should we get into my initial thoughts of Hamnet? Let's do it. I was very excited for this movie. I was very much looking forward to it. I had heard a lot of buzz. I like Chloe Zhao as a director. I really enjoyed Nomadland, which I just recently watched. I think Eternals, she did the best that she could, let's be real. But my initial thoughts on Hamnet, I was really moved, and it is such a wonderfully orchestrated film. Even if I think it comes up a little bit short in the end, I was still very captivated. I was fully on board the entire time. It's just, we'll talk about a little bit of the rough edges here, but but the performances in Hamnet. Jessie Buckley as Agnes Hathaway, probably the best performance of 2025, and we'll talk about Oscar chances in the future, but definitely the best actress performance of 2025 because she is absolutely mesmerizing, she is agonizing, she is everything. So enthralled in her performance the whole time. Every time she's on screen, I just couldn't take my eyes away from her. I'm like, what? Like, she is operating on a whole other level. She is giving some absolutely painful moments. She's giving some tender, loving, amazing moments, but she was just honestly amazing. Amazing. I was so happy watching her, and I was, crying. It was a lot in this movie, but let's talk about Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare. I was a little bit less impressed with Paul Mescal. I think, look, I really liked Normal People. I like Paul Mescal. I just don't find him that captivating in the feature film format. I thought Gladiator 2, he was a little bit of a weak lead, and he couldn't bring it all together, and he kind of couldn't come out of the shadows of Russell Crowe, I guess. The film is a little bit less about him here. Obviously, it's a more supporting role, I would say. I don't really think it's a leading role, but I just found him in the supporting role. Like, yes, he does, the crying well, he does the emotions well, but it's just like kind of washing over him, and he doesn't really bring the full throttle entertainment for me or bring the full captivating element that Jessie Buckley could, or Emily Watson could, or even Joe Alwyn in this movie, or Jacoby Jupe. Like, everyone else is just so in my face amazing. It's just Paul Mescal, I found him to be a little bit of a letdown. A big surprise for me that I was like, oh, I actually came away loving their character. Emily Watson as Mary Shakespeare, William Shakespeare's mother, I was shocked. Like, her character, a full 180 for me. I was just like, so, oh my god, I don't want to see her character. I'm tired of the annoying, rude mother-in-law of Agnes Hathaway, and yet by the end I was like, wow, maybe my favorite character was Mary Shakespeare, because she just does something in this film that we'll talk about. I was blown away by her character arc and just the evolution she kind of gets to go through emotionally, and the understanding that we have of grief and of trauma in our lives and how it shapes us and our parenting styles. Really great. Joe Alwyn as Bartholomew Hathaway. I've seen like a few Joe Alwyn films now. We did Kinds of Kindness. We also talked about The Brutalist last year. I think he's a fantastic actor. I really do want to see him in more big stuff like this, because he's actually so great, and he's really limited in this because he is Agnes's stepbrother, I believe, or half-brother. I think stepbrother. He's very like protective of her. He's trying to be, because it is 1596, he's the man of the house now that their father's gone, and he is trying to be very protective of her and be the authority on all these actions, but he actually gives her a lot of agency, and he's incredibly supportive, and they both remember their mother together who died when they were young, and he's very tender despite a very harsh outside, and their families come from very different backgrounds. So I don't know, it was kind of like Emily Watson, very fun to see that character arc and where they go with it, especially in the third act of the film. That was, yes, my least favorite part of the movie, but the real star of this film, other than Jessie Buckley, of course, is Jacoby Jupe as Hamnet, the son of Agnes and William. This movie actually has some of the best child acting that I can remember in a while. Like, I honestly am trying to remember what was the last movie that had such strong child acting. Like, maybe The Kid in Weapons, but this is operating on a whole other scale. I could not believe my eyes. Jacoby Jupe just doing things that, a seasoned actor could only dream of. Holy moly. Like, I can't underline enough how he immediately wins you over, and he's not like trying to play a super mature child and have these deep things. He is very much playing adolescent, he's naive, he likes to have fun in the world, and he's a regular kid who, when William Shakespeare leaves the house and goes to London to write his plays, he has to become the man of the house, and it's truly breathtaking what he does in this film and how he is operating. Oscar nomination, 1000%, please give it to him, because it's one of the best child performances we have had probably in the 2020s, I would say. I was blown away. I love this kid. He's adorable, he's brave, he's shockingly so down to earth, and yet he really does take on this huge evolution in this story. Just the character arcs in this movie are truly wonderful. I think there's two of them that are a little bit weaker, and I was like, okay, I get what they're trying to do in the end, but at the same time, magnificent. I thought also, I just want to give a shout out to Olivia Lyons as Judith Shakespeare, Hamnet's sister, the twin sister. Fantastic. But even if I didn't find Paul Mescal that entertaining, everyone else in the movie really did have me on the edge of my seat, and my theater experience was really good with this movie. I was in a like, I would say 3/4 full or half full theater on a Thursday night at 6:40 seeing Hamnet, and it was a cold winter night, so people were very excited to see this. And when the credits rolled, the amount of sniffles and snot that was running and tears and people audibly weeping was pretty mind-blowing. I'm struggling to remember the last film that I saw where everyone in the theater really was fighting back tears, and there was a lot of and there were a lot of moments. I think the third act for me was the least teary, but there were a lot of moments in this film where I was truly just snorting the time away. Chloe Zhao, as everyone has said, I'll send you my therapy bills, because this is a tearjerker by in all means, but honestly, a wonderful theater experience having that universal thing. Ted Sarandos, you'll never take it away from me. Sorry to bring that back up again, but this is why we go to the movie theaters. And like Chloe Zhao in general, I love how she directs this film. It's given so much room to breathe and so much room to really move around. Chloe Zhao really does sort of give us so much room, and the actors, like, there's a real distance between us. I like how everything is just a little bit further away. You know, there's been great movies this year where, like, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. What I loved about that movie is how close the camera is to everyone, and we're so up close and in their face, and it's part of the panic's nature, whereas we're a little bit further away in this film. It's a lot of handheld, and we're, you know, just getting these little slow winding shots, and it feels very sort of windy or drafty almost. And I love how much room to breathe is really the only way I can describe it. I mean, is the story kind of melodramatic at times? I don't know. There's some very big moments. There's some very big acting moments where it feels like, oh, that's what they would show in an Oscar clip, or it's those TikToks that are making fun of like every actor's Oscar clip, and it's very big moments with like screaming and crying. I think once you get over kind of the melodrama or how big they're swinging in this film, it really does work for me. The third act a little bit less, but at the same time, I just think like there's so much big stuff and big human emotions happening in this film that it feels kind of melodramatic, I guess, to the untrained eye. But there were things in the story where I was like, that was a big moment, and I've seen a big moment like that happen in real life, and that's exactly how it feels. And it's very impactful. It's very sad. The shot in the theater of the audience all reaching out to Hamlet at the end of the film that they show in the trailer, honestly, I took a mental picture of it in that moment, because after all of this buildup and the swelling of the Max Richter soundtrack, and then we get this Hamlet performance in the end, and then everyone reaching out to Hamlet on stage as he's dying, and the shot of the entire auditorium reaching out, like, holy shit, I had goosebumps. I have goosebumps right now talking about it, and I'm like almost getting a little bit choked up, because it was one of the sort of cinematic moments, or one of the cinematic images of the year for me, that I was like, god damn, that is unreal. Like, Chloe Zhao, you have done it. The DP, everyone has done it. This movie is just so well shot. It employs nature so much, and really the natural world. And weirdly enough, like, look, yes, it's a Shakespeare story, and it's funny because as soon as I got home, my girlfriend was like, oh, do they speak in like old-timey Shakespeare? And I was like, no, actually, it's just like regular English, and it is such an accessible story. The accessibility of a William Shakespeare story like this, I mean, it sounds dumb to talk about, but bear with me. Like, in high school, we've all had to study Shakespeare, and there's always No Fear Shakespeare, Spark Notes, everything, where teachers will, yes, they will tell you go to those sources so you can truly understand the material. But I think this movie is actually a really good chance to understand the themes and the motivations of a Shakespeare play like Hamlet, or a text, and what is actually going on, understanding the emotional background of it and where it's coming from, even though this is a fictional story. But William Shakespeare as well, understanding the man himself, he's very much not the main character of the story. Yes, and I'd argue that Agnes is the main story, but I don't know, he's so accepting of this kind of witchcraft or this natural world because of the family backgrounds that Agnes and William have. So William's family, they're working class, of course. His father thinks he's up to no good, and he, you know, just cares about arts and the writing and things like that he's doing in his spare time, and his father thinks he's up to no good. Whereas Agnes, her mother died when she was young. Her stepmother thinks she's no good, and basically their families have both outcasted them. Agnes's family thinks she's a witch, and she came from the Witch of the Forest, and her mother was a witch, and all this stuff. So it's very interesting how this movie is so accepting of like unnatural, or at the same time natural, healing methods or sort of beliefs, just like, I guess, religion. But at the same time, Agnes has all these rumors about her, or things that she doesn't really dispel. And Shakespeare, William, has this acceptance of witchcraft in the natural world that's really entertaining entertaining and kind of fun and loving, and sort of shows the love that he has for Agnes, that he's just like, yeah, makes sense. I'm embracing this world because, you know, he embraces all of these stories that he employs for his writing. Like when they first meet, this isn't a spoiler, but it's actually the second time they meet. It's when they meet in the forest. He tells her a story because he's kind of this awkward, bumbling young man. And he's like, I'm not very good at talking to people. I more just sort of like telling stories. And she's like, okay, tell me a story. And he tells her a story, and you can see how well spoken he is. And the story sounds crazy. Of course, it's about this underworld and this man saving a woman, and they're going through the underworld. And Agnes is so captivated. On the flip side, whenever Agnes tells stories of her beliefs, whether it is like making wishes about the death and sending them off to the afterlife, or the healing properties of, what's it called? I read it on Wikipedia when I was researching about like the herb beliefs, or the 7 herb wonders, or whatever it was of like English times. And it's very interesting how William gives Agnes the same attention and love and sort of level of belief that she gives him when he's telling stories. And they have this sort of trust, or they don't just dispel each other's beliefs or enjoyments or whatever you want to call it. You know, they give each other the same amount of attention and confidence to tell these kinds of stories and have these beliefs. And it's really wonderful in this story about love that they're like, yeah, you have your beliefs, I have mine, and they sound a little bit crazy and they're fun stories when you tell them out loud. But in the environment of 1596, I don't know, it's kind of fun having this sort of alternative couple, I guess you could say. For a film in 1596, it weirdly didn't feel that disgusting or like barbaric. I mean, people in 2025 might think of it as ancient times, but it's a very nice family environment where, like, yes, the plague exists, but I mean, we had the plague in 2020 essentially, and people are very normal and accessible. I guess the accessibility of this film is what might surprise people the most, but this film is really about grief creating a gorge between family members, and grief also shaping the relationships of a parent with their family in the future. And that's really what I took. Again, another film about parenting and family and grief and what informs our family patterns or our family systems or how our family interacts, and what informs our future based on how our parents treated us as children. And I really loved it. This is also, of course, a very important movie about love and how love evolves during difficult times, and how artists inject tragedies into their art. And we see how grief, you know, shapes people in the hardest of times, but then how you can overcome grief. And that's basically what this story is about. How do we sort of re-find our love or rediscover our love after grief has been put into something and we use it for a purpose? And that's what Agnes struggles to do, and Paul Mescal's character William Shakespeare, he has to do it. And that's what this film is all about, Hamnet. And I really love the journey that we get to go on. My big issue with the film is the final act after the big event that happens that sort of shapes everyone and everything that we know about this world. It was a little bumpy for me because of the perspective change to William Shakespeare. And I guess you could say, you know, it is a co-lead type film where it's Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley who are the leads. But again, coming out of it, I felt that was much more a film about Agnes's journey through love and grief and her understanding of her life and how her traumatic events have shaped her in her life to get to where she is in the future, and how her husband dealt with grief or trauma. And it's a really lovely piece that just so much of this really did work for me. But the third act had a real perspective shift to Shakespeare that I was like, I don't know. I understand what they're trying to do, and like, oh, why did William Shakespeare create Hamlet? And it's just the third act feels very forced and kind of like shoehorned in, or it just didn't quite come all together for me. And the kind of change around of I've become so attached to Agnes, and now all of a sudden it's just all William Shakespeare, and oh, he was troubled too, and then he harnessed all of this stuff into his craft, and it doesn't quite work for me in that sense. But otherwise, I thought the movie is so captivating, getting to see them fall in love and start a family and understand their upbringings kind of, and who they are as people based on what they've experienced in their lives, and how each of them has their own different kind of belief systems. That's really fascinating, and they embrace within each other, and just these two wonderful people finding love. And I would say atmosphere and nature play such an important role because this movie is really elemental. I mean, it's 1596, it's very, you know, untechnological, it's very natural, and there's natural remedies for everything, and there's like childbirth and stuff like that within this weird world of where it's just like only midwives and that's it, or only just women caring for each other. There's no machines to monitor anything or stuff like that. that. I loved how much Chloe Zhao just shows animals and the nature all around them. Like there's a lot of really great shots of the trees sort of swaying above them after a big moment, and it really was just so in touch with a part of ourselves that we do lose in this technological age, of how in touch we are with nature and how we really do depend on these natural things. But okay, I'm gonna give my definitive Oscar predictions for this film now. So I think Best Picture, this movie is absolutely a lock, like no doubt. Directing, I definitely see Chloe Zhao getting a directing nomination, honestly maybe even a win if Paul Thomas Anderson doesn't get it. For performers, I think Jessie Buckley is nailed on. Honestly, she might be my front runner for winner. We'll see with Amanda Seyfried and Testament of Anne Lee, but right now I think Jessie Buckley is probably the front runner because she is legitimately mesmerizing in this film. There's a lot of other things like costuming or whatever it might be, cinematography, who knows, but I think for sure Best Picture and some performance ones are in line. Paul Mescal, I think it's a bit of a toss-up, but I wouldn't be surprised. Definitely this movie is going to get a lot of Oscar nominations, but let's get into 2 stars and a wish and then we'll do spoilers. Star number 1, the film gives you a lot of time to settle into the family life and dynamic before things or unnamed things that I don't want to spoil go wrong. Star number 2, some of the best child acting we've had in a while. I could not believe what I was witnessing, and I really do think it's important to underline how good the child acting in this film is. My wish, just kind of a cleaner final act and more of a focused view in the final act or the third act or the big swing that we're going for at the end, I think really could have landed this for me in going above what my rating is right now. But look, overall, I think this movie is a huge success. It's so measured, it's accessible, it's elemental, and it's absolutely devastating. I liked it a lot. I'm giving Hamnet a 4 out of 5 stars. Let's get into spoilers. All right, spoilers for Hamnet. God, I could finally say what this movie is actually about, because like some people don't know. In my theater, some people after the film were like, oh, I didn't know that he dies in this. So the movie is actually about the death of their son, Hamnet, who inspired the character Hamlet. And the title card of the movie opens with like in ancient or 16th century, 15th century Stratford, Hamnet and Hamlet were actually interchangeable. So that's why Hamnet inspired the name Hamlet. And the play itself, it's about a boy, you know, avenging the spirit of his father and being brave and killing the king or whatever it is. And it was like very surprising to me that people were surprised after, you know, the trailers and everything. They don't think that kid is dying. Every single trailer I was like, oh yeah, the kid dies, right? And that's what the book is about, Hamnet. It's a fictionalized story, of course. I don't know if William Shakespeare actually had an 11-year-old son who died. I know he had like 3 daughters or something like that. But this movie is all about, I think a lot of it is actually about Hamnet and how he becomes the man of the family in William Shakespeare's absence. And the trailer's using the moment between William Shakespeare and his son telling him, you'll be brave when I'm gone, and all this stuff is just really, really moving by the time you watch the movie, because that's such an important line, and it's about a child being brave and being kind of the leader of a household. And Jacoby Jupe really does have you captivated from the moment you meet him as this like lovely, nice, regular child who likes to do the witch scenes from Macbeth for his parents and with his sisters, and they're having fun, and him and his twin sister, like I just love how close they are, and they really are best friends. They love to swap clothes and try to trick their parents and all this stuff, and it's just like you can see how innocent and well behaved and well raised they are. And honestly, it's sort of shocking and very nice to see how well mannered the children are and how well done Agnes Hathaway and William Shakespeare have done as parents. And masculinity does play a big role in this film, because you have William's father who thinks he's useless because he's not masculine or he's not a hard worker and he just writes these plays or whatever it is. And then you see William's treatment of his son. He's telling him, be brave, be the protector of the house, but also he's telling him to like dream and follow your heart. And at the same time, Agnes's brother Bartholomew is actually a really interesting case of masculinity, and he's telling Agnes, follow your heart, lead with an open heart like our mother said, lead with your heart. And he's very in touch with the natural world as well. Just, I really loved the sort of representations of masculinity and father-son relationships in this, as well as sort of man-to-man Bartholomew to Hamlet, and especially in the final scene or the final act fact where Bartholomew is at the play of Hamlet as well, and it's very funny, and I've seen a lot of tweets being like, it's actually sort of hilarious how her brother was so into the play at the end when she thought they're taking Hamlet's name in vain, and Bartholomew's like, shh, this is kind of fire. But there's so much wonderful stuff happening in the family dynamics in this film. I mean, the birth scene, which is the scene that made me cry the hardest, surprisingly. Also, I mean, Hamnet dying made me cry extremely hard, but the birth scene where Jessie Buckley as Agnes is just giving this animalistic, so over the top, out there performance where she gives birth to Hamnet first, then they realize there's a twin. She didn't want to give birth in this room because she needs to give birth in the forest because it's kind of part of her beliefs or her ritual, or she's born from this, witch in the forest and all that stuff. And it's just really, you feel on edge and a little bit off from the start of the scene because she has these beliefs and she thinks she's in trouble because she's not in the forest. And there's a major part of this movie and sort of a major thread that she can see the future just by touching someone's hand in a certain way. And she sees Hamlet's future. She also sees her own future where she sees herself dying with 2 children by her bedside. Well, in the moment where she gives birth to twins and she realizes there's a second child, thus having 3 children total, you see the panic in everyone in the room, sort of like, oh shit, she's having twins. Jessie Buckley does such a great job of playing the instant shock where she's almost not happy that she's having another child because she is like, oh no, this child is in danger, or one of my children is in danger immediately. And she's almost on the back foot, having to play defense right away. And again, sort of the witchery of Agnes, but in reality, like William Shakespeare, she has the ability to harness her pain and trauma to perform miracles. When her daughter is born of the twins, is it Judith? Yeah, when Judith is born, she is born, her heart is not beating, or it doesn't seem like she's alive, and the nurse is ready to give her an honorable farewell, but then she demands, Agnes, give me the baby, and she brings it back to life. She's sort of visualizing her mother who died in childbirth, and it was just a really powerful moment where you can see, like William Shakespeare did, someone is using all the pain that they've experienced in their life. Every single fabric of their being is being channeled into this miracle, like a play like Hamlet that has united people or drawn people for centuries now. And it honestly blew me away. I was a teary mess for this entire sequence, and then Emily Watson in that sequence is where her character won me over. She recognizes in that moment, she is not a fan of Agnes. Of course, she knows she's a witch and all of this nonsense that she has, but it's because she lost 3 children in her life, and she has a very scarred past, and that's why she's so protective of the children that she has, like William. Suddenly, you start to approach her character from a much more understanding point of view, but in that moment, she locks eyes with Agnes and says, look, my son William was born right in that corner, right there in this room, and he has survived, and he is with you. And suddenly, Agnes is like, oh, you're on my team, kind of, and they form this bond in that moment that is just so lovely, and it brought me to tears as well. It was another layer on this scene that just feels so raw and emotional, and yet in that moment, it's just such a lovely woman-to-woman moment where they really do unite, and they're trying to save this child because Emily Watson's character, Mary, is just as protective as Agnes is of this child, and she supports her in this. It's just a breathtaking scene. It's one of my favorite scenes of the film. It's just 2025 has been a very good year for movies. As always, we've been kind of like, oh my god, it's been a slow start. Maybe this is going to be a bad year. I think we've had some phenomenal films, and Hamnet is really up there. There's so much like dread and predestination in this film, I guess you could say, because Agnes can read the future. She sees that one of her children is going to be troubled, and unfortunately, it is Hamnet. And I thought his whole bravery line and Hamnet wanting to grow up to be a performer on his father's stage as a swordsman, and he wants to be brave, but he actually has to be brave at home by redoing the sort of trickery twin thing on death. And it's just such a breathtaking, mystical thing that, again, Chloe Zhao is kind of playing with the what's real, what's not elements, and we see him approaching the afterlife and approaching death, and death looks like the stage where Hamlet is played, and there's a cutout in the back of the stage where he goes, and there's just so much playing with what's real, what's not, what are we seeing, what are we emotionally just sort of imagining in our heads. And I really did love it. And as shaky as it kind of was getting to that final moment of Agnes saying goodbye to her baby boy on stage as she is watching Hamlet, she sees him in the back approaching sort of the exit to go backstage, and that is him going to the afterlife. She can finally let out this grief, and this play has given her that way to grieve, and that's maybe William's greatest gift to his family. It was just so beautiful. Yes, the perspective kind of shifts to William towards the end of the film because it's like, oh, William him, is so distant from his family. He's struggling. He's on his own. He needs to go back because he's stuck and he has kind of writer's block. Agnes is always very understanding and telling him you need to go back to London. But at the end of the film, I think it's trying to have this moment of Agnes doesn't think he's truly grieving his son, or he's not trying to reckon with that moment, but he's channeling all of that into this play and trying to give her something special for people to understand what has happened and for her to be able to grieve her son. And it's a beautiful moment. I understand what they're doing, even if it doesn't fully land. I still really loved it. I thought the death scene of Hamnet, where he sees his sister's about to die, he gets in the bed with her and they pull the sheets over and he's like, we'll trick death by hiding under the sheets and they won't know who's who, and I will get the plague instead of you. Ultimately, death will come for me. And he's being brave in that moment, and he tells her, be brave in those final moments. And it's so interesting because the child that Agnes always thought was going to be an issue health-wise and has always had issues health-wise was Judith, but it's actually Hamnet in the end that dies, and she didn't see that, and she can no longer see the future after Hamnet dies. And it just all really ties together super well. I think there's so many powerful moments in this film that I absolutely loved. I was so captivated. I couldn't take my eyes away, and it just feels so down to earth and relatable. And the scream that Agnes lets out after she realizes that Hamnet has died, I've heard that scream before. I've been in a room with someone, or I've been in the house with someone when they find out that someone has died unexpectedly, and it's terrifying. It shakes you to your core. Just felt so real in the moment. It was a very haunting for me, but in the end, it does feel like such a release when Agnes realizes what's happening in the play. I didn't love when she goes in and she starts yelling at the play, and it's just like very awkwardly written. I think it's a little overwritten where she's yelling at everyone and she's saying everything out loud and everyone's shushing her, and it's like, okay, we get it. She's uncomfortable with the play, or she thinks they're taking his name in vain. I feel like it could have been done in a almost a quieter way or a more subdued way. It just felt very like out of character, over the top, but it was still really captivating seeing the whole Hamlet play in the third act, kind of, or seeing the important parts, and especially Hamlet's death in the end, the final goodbye and ending on her finally smiling for the first time after the loss of her son, Hamnet. There's so much wonderful stuff in here. Honestly, this is one of the movies that come Oscar time I might rewatch ahead of the awards because it was just so touching, and there's so much masterful storytelling and directing and just amazing stuff in here that I couldn't stop thinking about since Thursday night. I've just been so in love with the score of this film by Max Richter. Is amazing. The needle drop at the end that he's doing is just fantastic. Hamnet was a very solid 4 out of 5. I think it's a really, really good 4 out of 5, but it just had some little blemishes that I was like, I don't know about that. But that's all I have for spoilers. Let's get into what else I watched. Alrighty, what else I watched? I have 2 films and 4 TV shows to talk about this week. So let's start with the TV shows, because the final 2 episodes of Stranger Things, just kind of the same thoughts as last week in many ways, but I am going to do spoilers, so be careful. It feels like there's just so many people, and it's a simultaneously rushed and very slow show. Like, it feels like every episode is so long, and yet nothing is happening. Like, the needle is barely moving. A lot of the characters just kind of feel pointless in the end. Like, why are they in the show anymore? They're just there because they have to be there. It's weird how the Stranger Things writers don't know how to just put a character out of the show immediately. Like, okay, we have no use for this character anymore. They need to go off on a journey, or they're going to go into hiding or whatever. Write them out of the show. Like, 11, kind of pointless character now that Will has powers, because we just have the anti-Vecna, and Will is just going to be the new 11, or they're going to have some Avengers team up. But it just feels like they're slowly nerfing and pulling back Elle because they don't know what to do with her. Just the sound wave stuff that they're doing to stop her powers this season, because it's like, oh, well, she could get them out of any situation. So then they nerf her, and she just feels like a very underwritten and honestly poorly managed character since probably season 1. I don't know, a lot of the stuff that she's kind of gone through, I'm like, okay. I think the season 4 stuff, most of it worked with the science lab showing Vecna as Henry and stuff like that. I guess that works, but it just kind of feels like she's being put on the back burner when really the entire show is kind of about her and Will, but now it's much more about Will. And Will getting powers, like, I don't like it, but it makes sense because you have to do something with him in the show. He has not been relevant to the show since season 1 when he was kidnapped. Season 2, he's going through all like the, post-traumatic stress of all this stuff. And then season 3, he's kind of not doing much. Season 4, he's really doing nothing much at all. He's kind of just a passenger on this journey to California. It's just, it's strange, the character dynamics that are going down. I think Dustin and Steve have like the worst written character dynamic dynamic in the show because all of a sudden they're just pissed at each other. They're picking on each other. They have to argue. Actually, maybe they're not even the worst because Jonathan and Nancy have, like, what is their relationship? They have no love for each other. They barely interact. What the hell are we doing, man? The show just feels so poorly written. It really is just high budget Riverdale. Like I said in my social media review and I saw in a tweet, it's just so much in the final season that they really don't need to do. Like, apparently all the second volume is going to answer the upside down, and it's like, okay, I guess, but that's not really the question that people have. No one's questioning the upside down, I don't think. No one really cares about that. I think people really want to see like the core 4 group of friends and 11 figure out what's going on and them being united again, just like season 1 and how it was then, because it is the final season and they really haven't been together since the first season. Every season our team has been split up, they're separated, and it kind of sucks that it's been so long. It's been 9 years of them not really being together since season 1, and it's like, it's the final one. You got to give the people what they want. And at the same time, seeing the 4 friends together, the Hellfire Club or whatever, seeing the 4 of them together is almost shocking because it feels like they've been split up for so long. It's like, oh, I forgot what their character dynamics are supposed to be like. But having seen the first 4 episodes, what would I rate Stranger Things 5 so far? I think I'm going with a 3 out of 5 officially. I'm like loosely interested, I'm loosely entertained, but I just don't find it that captivating, and I think we've really moved on from whatever Stranger Things is really. I'm not that interested anymore. I think people have moved on. It's taken so long. The 80s nostalgia isn't a thing anymore. The whole thing is shot like a really bad commercial. It's so funny because they're selling tickets at my Cineplex to watch the Stranger Things finale. It comes out on New Year's Eve. How are people going to binge the entire thing during the day and then go see a 2.5-hour television episode in theaters? And it's ironic that Ted Sarandos is like, oh, well, movie theaters, blah, blah, blah. Like, people don't want to watch movies in theaters anymore. And yet every screening of Stranger Things is pretty much sold out. Like, they're all to the brim full. So this guy's full of shit. But Stranger Things 5, we will return to it in a month. Let's talk about the Batman, the animated show. I'm very close to finishing season 1. I watched episodes 17 to 21, and I feel like I've seen most of these episodes because I do have season 2 on DVD, and I feel like they've weirdly included some of those episodes. Like, there was the one where Bennett becomes Clayface, and it's because of Joker serum or because of the Joker gas. There's one where it's the Bat Who Laughs, and or the Laughing Bat, I think is what it's called, and Joker's impersonating Batman across Gotham. But I watched episodes 17 to 21, so I have 5 episodes left in the first season. It's really fun. I'm watching it a lot at the gym when I'm on the elliptical. I'll throw on an episode because it's 20 minutes or 40 minutes if I watch 2 of them. Perfect cardio background activity is watching some animated shows in the gym. But let's talk about The Chair Company, season 1, episode 8, the season finale, because I feel like it was very clear early on that this was going to have a season 2. It just wasn't announced. Maybe they did approach HBO and be like, look, this is a multi-season story. We don't want it to be a limited series. And I love the season finale. So it was titled Minnie Mouse Coming Back, wasn't on my bingo card. So I love that Ron is just trying to push off the mystery for like the first 20 minutes of the episode. And then he's just fully back on board. Like, yeah, I have to do something. And it's just the tying to his personal life, the whole mystery and him being almost implicit in it is really good. So he pushed Jeff and he's been suspended from work. So now he's technically fired and they're trying to find a road forward with him. And they're like, look, we want you to come back, but what's happening? And he discovers that Jeff actually wrote the song for Red Ball Company, or he sings the song that plays on the, what do you call it? Like the waiting music, the hold music. Again, evolving the mystery up till the very last minute of the season is great. And I think it totally works. I'm really digging everything they're doing, how the daughter's marriage is essentially off, or the wedding's going to be off and she's back home with her family. The entire sequence where he's bringing Baby, the dog, back to his owner, and it's like, is this guy a vampire or does he hallucinate something? I also think they didn't fully answer it, but Ron constantly hitting his head in this season, because he's warned by the doctor, hit your head again and like you could have some serious injuries, and he keeps hitting his head over and over again. I wonder if in season 2 something's gonna happen and he's gonna go crazy because he hits his head too many times. I don't know what's up with that, but it turns out it was Amanda all along, and Red Ball is actually part of his company. I think is going to be the future lead up, but Amanda is the woman that he accidentally looks up her skirt, or she loosened the chair so he would look up her skirt because they went to high school together. It sounds crazy to say all of this out loud, but it is very funny. I loved how season 1 wrapped up. It felt very neat while also leading to a perfect season 2 mystery. We'll see where it all goes. I think it will be back next year. Now let's talk about a very big episode of Survivor, season 49, episode 11, where Yellow Sophie went home. I am getting a little bit nervous for next week's week's episode that Savannah is actually going to be going home, or Rizzo, and Savannah is my winner pick. I think Blue Sophie is going to flip on them possibly. I did a prediction video this week actually on my social media, a short-term prediction, a medium, like sort of soonish prediction, and then a finale prediction. For my short-term one, I said that Sage was going to go home this episode because they were just going to get another flipper out. Instead, they got Yellow Sophie out, which ruins my other predictions that Yellow Sophie was going to lose in fire making, and the final three was going to be Blue Sophie, Savannah, Rizzo. I am starting to think that actually Blue Sophie is going to flip next episode. She's going to take Rizzo's idol, and they're going to get Savannah out. It seems like people are just not threatened by Rizzo at all on the island. I've heard Xander being thrown out a lot there from season 41, who on TV, he seemed like this huge threat, but on the island, everyone thought he was kind of a goofball and nobody was going to award him $1 million because he wasn't a threat. And I think the same thing might be happening with Rizzo, where they're like, he's not really a threat. It's just Rizzo. He's kind of a goofball. Yes, he's arrogant and cocky, but Savannah's the one we're really worried about. So I do see a future where next week, Blue Sophie flips, or Steven uses his block a vote and stacks the numbers against Savannah. Rizzo maybe goes home because Rizzo plays his idol on Savannah. Who knows? Or I think kind of my final prediction for next week is Blue Sophie is going to steal Rizzo's idol, and they're going to all stack the votes on Savannah. She's going to go home. I honestly think it is going to happen, and that's why her and Rizzo are on season 50, is because she didn't win, and they just kind of controlled the game so hard, the two of them, for a long time. But so far, it's been really entertaining, the post-merge. I think the problem with the new era is the 3-tribe format doesn't let you settle into people's emotions or personalities enough, versus when it's one team versus another, you can really focus on the storytelling of just 2 groups versus 3 groups. Usually it's a disaster tribe and all we're getting is them, so it starts the season out a little more slower. But let's talk about the 2 films that I watched this week, starting with Herbie Fully Loaded from 2005, starring Lindsay Lohan, Michael Keaton. This was not my choice. This is one of my girlfriend's favorite movies from her childhood, so we watched it, and you know what? It was like very much what I expected. It's an early 2000s sort of beloved legacy sequel of an older film of the Herbie movies. It's a fun children's movie where, you know, a car is come to life and it does goofy stuff in races, and it's comedic. It's a little bit old-timey, pretty entertained the whole time, but it's like some of the CGI is very funny to watch now. Some of the acting is very hokey. I do like thinking about the dynamics of everyone not acknowledging that a car is alive, and they're all like, oh, what the heck? Why did the hood open? Or, oh, this car is just crazy, but they're not like, yeah, the car's looking at us and it's honking and it's speaking to us. I just feel like I'm being gaslit by the cast the entire time. But Herbie Fully Loaded from 2005, I gave it 2 stars. It's a harmless children's film that was a lot of fun, even if it's not for me or it hasn't aged remarkably well. But let's talk about a movie that I did love a lot, Train Dreams. I wish I saw it in theaters because, oh my dear God, one of the best films of the year. I currently have it in 3rd place, 4th place on my 2025 ranked list. I don't know, go look at my Letterboxd at my 2025 ranked list, but I watched it and I wept like a baby. This was a truly moving film about Robert Grenier, who's played by Joel Edgerton, and I've literally never been a huge Joel Edgerton fan. Most movies I've watched him in, I've been like, this is easily my favorite performance of him, of course, or by him rather. It's one of the best movies of the year about such an ordinary guy who just works in the logging or lumber business or whatever it is, and just has a family. He has dreams, he has hopes, he has aspirations, he has grief in his life. How does he move on from witnessing a terrible thing and blaming himself for not intervening? Once again, something terrible happens to him, he blames himself, and it's just really a story about like hindsight in life and moving on from terrible things in our lives that I absolutely loved. I hate Netflix with a burning passion, but unfortunately they have a lot of the big hitter Oscar movies, and it's kind of, they've shaped a market and they've shaped people into playing into their hands, because Netflix and Apple and Disney Plus or Disney or whatever are the only places doing these huge extravagant budgets for these films that let these auteur filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro or like a film like Train Dreams happen, where they give artistic creativity unlimited resources and they say you can do whatever you want, but you're only getting a 2-week theatrical window and then you're going on our streaming service. And they're really only doing the theater thing because they want to qualify for the Oscars. And it's unfortunate because Train Dreams is a film that should be celebrated in the theaters for a long time. I think a lot of people could watch this and really connect to it. I loved it so much. I gave it 4.5 stars. I am very excited to see it in the Oscar season because I do think it's going to be a bit of a dark horse when it comes to nominations in Best Actor, Best Director, Best Picture. I think it could possibly sort of wiggle its way midway in there with a couple other movies not doing so well or as well critically as we could have thought, but that has been what else I watched. And in fact, I think that's going to do it for episode 97, Hamnet. What a film it was. I had a lot of difficulty talking about it because I don't want to give away the spoiler, but it's just such a deep, moving, lovely, heartbreaking movie that I do want to watch again. I honestly do want to watch a week. Next week's going to be a lot of fun as well. But as for now, please rate and review the show 5 stars wherever you get your great podcasts like Watcher of All Things, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Acast. We are, of course, an Acast-produced show. Right on Spotify, you can comment underneath. What did you think of Hamnet? Where's it sort of landing in your best picture ratings? What's your favorite movie of 2025? What's your top 3 movies of 2025? What are you watching on TV right now? If you're on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff down below underneath the podcast. Hit the notification bell so you know when new YouTube videos or podcast episodes drop. And check out my Do My Childhood Favorite Movies Hold Up video. It was a lot of fun. And there's tons of other YouTube videos on my channel that you can check out. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email me, watcherofallthings@gmail.com, and find me on social media. Instagram and Threads are just @watcherofallthings. My TikTok account is @watcher.of.all.things. I post on social media every single day, tons of videos going out. Also follow my personal Letterboxd account, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me and drop a comment under one of my reviews that you found me through the show. I will follow you back. Let's build a little community. Next week, it's a fun one. We are finally doing another Watcher Watch Back where we are going to talk about Avatar 1 and 2 because it really does sound like Avatar Fire and Ash is the culmination of 3 films altogether. So I think we will talk about both Avatar films next week. It's going to be a blast. And then we have Fire and Ash the week after. We're almost at 100 episodes, which is crazy. Episode 100 is going to be Marty Supreme, I believe, which feels very fitting. But guys, I think that's going to do it for now. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for the kind words and amazing comments or messages I get every week. It's so nice hearing from you guys. Even if you disagree with me or if you agree with me, it's nice hearing from you either way. But thank you all so much for listening, the kind words. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.